That was better than I expected it to be. Let's talk Squid Game Chapter 2. If we're going to talk about this, first we got to talk about how I expected the show, or at least the second season for the show to be. Going in, I had a big feeling that they were just going to kind of cash grab and use a lot of what worked in season 1 and season 2. So, first off, everyone loved the games. That was the main focal point of the first season. So, I thought for sure they were going to really pound in the idea of just, we'll give you what you want. We'll give you the games and we'll give you the high stakes during those games. I thought it was just going to be a big old cash grab, like I've been saying over and over. I'm throwing that word around loosely, or I guess that term, cash grab. I really thought that's what was going to happen, but in hindsight, the show did come out 3 years ago. If they were going to try to just get a simple cash grab out of it, they would have released the second season way sooner. Anyways, obviously, we follow the same main character, Jihan. I think that's how you say his name. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. I don't speak Korean. I'm also one of those weird motherfuckers who watches the show dubbed in English instead of subbed, so I can hear their sweet, beautiful, angelic, baby voice Korean voices. I don't care enough to do that shit. I don't want to read the show. I want to watch it. So anyways, going into this show, season 2 of this show at least, we follow the main character Jihan, and he is, it's a very big switch up from season 1. You can really tell that it's a complete opposite actually of season 1 version of Jihan. He is now out for blood. He feels vengeance and he wants to get justice for all the people that died in the games in season 1 alongside him. And he comes out just John Wick style, fucking Fortnite locker in his apartment. Just has guns everywhere. He's setting up this. He's using his money to just find these people with everything he's got, and his main goal is to find these people and shut down these games for good. So I'm not going to give you too many spoilers. I'm going to try to stay away from spoilers, just give an honest review. So for the first 2 episodes, the main character does not go anywhere near the game element of the show. So in the first 2 episodes, it's kind of resetting up what's going on, which is, I don't know how I feel how long it took to get him to the main point, because there's only 7 episodes instead of 9 in this season. So that's shorter time by 2 more episodes. So that means any wasted time is just out the window until at least season 3 comes out. So, main character, basically, there's an A plot and then there's a B plot. In the A plot, we got the main character Jihan. He is trying to find these people. He hires these other people to just search for this guy. Basically does the whole recruiting thing. He's called a recruiter in the show. And he is just hiring everyone to go find this guy so he can find his way to find this island or find these people or whatever. And what ends up happening there is they end up finding him, and then by the end of the second episode, the main character Jihan, he is knocked out. He ends up being able to talk to the game maker in the car, asks him a few questions, and he ends up agreeing to be brought to the games a second time with a tracker in his mouth, so that way the people from the B plot, who I'll explain in a second, can track him to where the island is. He then is brought to the island, and then that's the rest of the 5 episodes. I will not go any further on any specific details there. I don't want to spoil anything. That was kind of what was in the trailer, though, so I mean, I'm not spoiling anything there. But in the B plot, so we got the same detective who was on the island in the first season of Squid Games, and he's kind of given up trying to find the island, just like Jihan's been doing for about 3 years now. He just now is giving up, and he's like, okay, I'm just gonna try to live a normal life now. I've tried all this time to try to find these people, to pin them down, since in the first episode it's revealed that he sees his brother on the island. He doesn't want to tell anyone that, though, so he throughout the whole show, he doesn't tell anyone that he saw his brother there. Just that there's this mystery island and that you gotta trust him that it's there and stuff. Which, I mean, who's going to trust someone saying some shit like that? So basically, in the B plot, Jihan, the main character, and the detective guy, they both meet up eventually, and there's this third random ass guy that's kind of just there. I mean, he has great importance, and he feels like he'll be a lot more important in the third season of the show. But for right now, he's kind of just a filler character, kind of boring. Just there, just to fill in some gaps that I don't know. Which, I mean, that's a giant reoccurring theme of this season. It feels like a giant elaborate setup to end the show. So it almost feels like a giant Oreo cookie we're gonna have here. We had the first season 3 years ago. That was the base that they set for the show. Could have sat by itself. Could have been the last season of the show. Would have been completely fine. It could have just been that perfect show that came at the perfect time, when everyone was inside doing nothing because of the whole, as the Game Grumps would call it, Backstreet Boys reunion tour, because you can't say what it actually was in 2020 and 2021 on YouTube, or else you get demonetized. I think that's still a thing. Anyways, the show came out at a perfect time, and it was kind of one of a kind. No show had ever been of that low of a budget at the same time as being a masterpiece in story writing. At least I think. And the way they went with the story was very interesting, where there's not really a good ending. I mean, yes, the main character does not die, does not lose, he's the only one left alive, but on that same note, everyone else dies, and he's the only one left, and he gets very depressed from that fact. So there is no real good ending, if you think about it that way. The first season was that big, like, hurrah, like, perfect thing. Could have stood by itself. Second season was good. Seems like filler, though. And the third season's gonna be just pretty close to the first season, where it's just, whoa, explosion of information, a whole bunch of new stuff. It's its own thing, could be its own thing. And it seems like season 2 being in the middle of that is just setting up for that season 3. It's kind of that middle ground in between season 1 and 3. It's it's just continuing the story of season 1 a few years later, where it picks back up after 3 years of just nothing. And then season 3 is going to be where, imagine this, right? We have a line right here, right? So we start here, right before season 1 starts. It's more like all the way down here. So we got the main character, he gets into the games, blah, 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 everything goes on through the games. The games ends, right? He wins, climax, the end of the series, or the end of the season at least. It starts to go down as the next episode goes on, where he's just going through his winnings, trying to find his dead mom, all that sort of stuff, whatever. He gets depressed. So then we have those 3 years of stagnant right here, back at the beginning, where it's all stagnant, nothing's happening, they're just trying to find the island. The detective guy and the main character. Season 2, we go back up a little bit where they find it. They find the island, they go back into the games. Okay, it's about half of where it was before. Then They just do the games, and it's kind of just the same all the way through, kind of in this middle ground, right? And then, bam, it just stops because the story doesn't end. It's leading into the third season that's going to go back up again. I don't know if that example made sense, but it did to my fucking small little hamster brain, so it must to someone else out there. There's a big emphasis on how this season is not a suspenseful season. It's more of an action-packed season. What I mean by that is in season 1, there was a whole lot of I've never seen anything about this show before. What do these games mean? Why are these people being sent to these games? What is going on? We know nothing until we start watching these episodes. Now we understand at the end of episode 9 what this is all about. It's this organization that takes people and that are basically on the end of their they have no resorts left. They have no money left and they have a whole bunch of debt. So they take them and they pin them all up against each other to do games to where if they lose those games, they die. So it's an entertainment to these people that are holding these games, these huge millionaire, billionaire people at the top. And all these poor people are just fighting because it's their last resort, against their will almost. But I mean, there's still many chances for all these people to leave. There's many votes where they could get themselves out, without dying, but they're so needing of this money that they will do anything for it because they have nothing else to live for. So they're doing this. Kind of like that one story of that guy that got sent into the room, and he was a struggling comedian, and he got sent in his room, and he would have to do raffles to get items, number 1, to live, number 2, to get items to save up money to get back out of this room and leave it. And he ended up doing it like 2 or 3 times or something like that. Because they kept bringing him back to do it more and more, and he had the chance to say no. He could have said, "Yeah, I don't want to do this," and just left just like that, lickety split. But he never did. You know why? Because he had nothing else. So that is still inhumane. They are taking the idea that you have nothing left and giving you a chance, but using it for their own entertainment and basically fucking with humanity. If that makes sense. So they're taking all these people, putting them into... So basically that was season 1. It set up what the show was, and it could have stood by itself. It ended perfectly. But season 2 comes along, right? And it's basically just saying, this main character who's done these games before, that you already know, you've already done, he is back to do these games again, right? But they change it up. They do different games, which I do like. I like that about this show. They change up the games. They do obviously the first one to be like, haha, we're back in Squid Games. We're doing the same games. Red light, green light. The main character knows this. I hope everyone is listening to him. Once everyone starts to possibly start thinking about listening to him, then the games change. He looks like a freak. He looks like an idiot. He looks like he has no idea what he's talking about. He's lost his mind. That's how we set up the show here. Eventually, we have about one team that trusts this guy, and then the other half of the people do not. They want to stay in the games and not leave, and basically what the main character is trying to do here is he's trying to get... He went back into the games to try to get everyone out, which I think that's an interesting concept. I'd be lying if I didn't think it was an obvious way to go about it. It's the storyline that makes the most amount of sense. With that being said, I think they did it in the most unpredictable way. So you're going to see a lot less of what is going to happen at the end of these games that I've never seen before, and more like, oh look, games are not a focal point of this season. What's a focal point is them trying to take down the big bad guys, which kind of leads for just a bunch of action, and I've got to tell you, a whole bunch of filler. Because part of the B plot. The A plot is what pretty much everything I just described. The B plot is that detective guy who is following, trying to find the island where all these games are going down. So basically, every time, which I would say is about probably 20 to 30% of the show, is this detective guy going from island to island to island, just trying to find where the games are going on. Nothing else. Every single scene without fail is boring beyond belief. Nothing's happening except for one scene, and it's at the very end of the show, and I will not explain what it is, but it is a character, and you can tell he's going to be very important at the end of the show in season 3. Right now, he just got revealed to be important. Before, he was just a guy who was in season 2. He's actually going to be important, it seems. I've never been more fucking bored with a B plot in my life. Every time it switched over to the detectives, I almost did a audible sigh out loud because I was just like, this fucking B plot again. I wonder what they're gonna do this time. Maybe they'll go to an island and say, hey, there's no fucking bullshittery going on around here. Maybe we should go and look at the next island. Cut scene. Go to the A plot again. It does that the whole season, without fail. Does it the whole season. And that's just not fun, or interesting, or anything. It's not captivating. I just want to fucking die. Another thing I'd like to note is the characters they chose for this season. There were some standouts, and there was also some stand-ins, if you would. Standouts, what I mean by that is, think your Thanos, or your Thanos of the season. He stood out. He was a character that did exactly what he needed to do, which was be annoying. His main goal was to be annoying as fucking almighty shit. As annoying as possible. And his character did that because it fooled me. I've never been more angry and annoyed at a character from Squid Games before besides him. He's really annoying. And you know who else is a stand-in and also annoying? Didn't do his job very well? The old guy who was always wanting to stay into the games. He was annoying, but I think he's a stand-in. What I mean by that is he almost is standing in for a character. He's almost replicating what one character trait of another character was in season 1. I think there was a lot of that in season 2. Obviously, they couldn't show the same cast because they all died. So they had to kind of find the roles again in new characters. It almost felt like the old guy who was a stand-in kind of replicated that one guy with that was in the sex scene with that one girl in the bathroom who was a real dick, but that was his role. He played it really well. But that was this guy in this season, but I didn't give a shit. Like, I didn't give a shit about him. He was boring. He didn't do anything. He was just kind of there. And he'd be annoying anytime you saw him or heard him. And he had a few lines here and there, nothing interesting, nothing too much. He was just that one character that got in the fucking way and was annoying. Thanos actually had an impact. You could tell he was annoying on the outside, and this tough guy, this fucking cocky-ass man-baby that was gloating his rapping career all over the place. But on the inside, you could tell he was actually, like, scared as fuck. There was some scenes just showing him just overdosing almost on drugs because he couldn't take what the situation around him was, and it was the only way he could cope with it. Those were just two examples. I would say one was a very good standout character, one was a very good stand-in. I wasn't a big fan of the scenes where they were trying to be empowering, if that makes sense. Take the scene where the transgender lady is trying to explain how they feel about being a trans person and why they were there in the games because of it. It was just it felt very misplaced, and it felt very like they were trying to just appeal to the generation of 2024. It didn't feel right in the show. I did like the character. They in the show they were like perfect, I would say. They were perfectly placed in there. But I don't think I like that. And they did it a few times. They did it a few too many times, I would say. One character that I think was one of the biggest standouts of this season, who was in season 1, was the game maker. He basically played the good guy the entire season. He flipped his role and pretended to be the good guy of the series to the main character's face. And it's this interesting thing where in the first season, the old man kind of does the same thing, but we do not know that he's the bad guy until the end of the series, or season now. I cannot get used to saying that. It's so weird to have a Squid Game season 2. In the end of season 1, the old man, who to the audience was just another player who died halfway through the games, ends up not dying, and the main character who wins the games greets him in his deathbed and is told by him that basically he is the reason all the games happen, and he's the game maker, which is a crazy plot twist at the end of the series that's not expected pretty much by anyone, I don't think, because of how well he plays that role. But in season 2, they do the same thing except they kind of flip it. They take this character that we know is bad already. He's the game maker now, since the old man is dead. I think that's how that worked. Who is the brother of the detective, and he goes into the games just like the old man did. And funny enough, he also plays the role of 001, just like the old man did. But this time, we know the bad guy is playing a good guy, and the main character, nor anyone else around him, finds out until the very end of this. Actually, no, they don't find out at all. There's like 2 people that find out, and they die instantly, and they're not even main characters. So none of the main characters, including the main character, finds out that this guy is bad until the end of the series, which is an interesting twist of what they did for the old man. I just finished season 2 today. It came out yesterday. I wanted to make a review as soon as possible while I still had my thoughts brewing in my brain as hot and tasty as a toaster strudel that I'd throw at a random aunt on the street. Anyways, I thought it was good. I just thought there was too much failure. Anyways, thank you everybody so much for watching. Bye bye.